second myth we want to talk about is that families control what their kids learn. So I don't know if you all have experienced this as parents or families of kids, but usually if there's sort of a racialized behavior or comment on a child's part, immediately the blame goes to the family, that it must have been the family that gave the child this idea. And so this is a myth that we want to debunk. Now, certainly families play a big role, and parents may wish to limit their children's exposure to racism, or they may wish to avoid having discussions about race. But the truth is that children live in the same racialized society that all of us live in, and they are getting messages from all around them every day. So often in my work, parents will say to me like, gosh, my kid is only 3, they're only 4, they're too young to talk to them about this. They don't notice it yet. But what research shows us is, kids are noticing racialized patterns in the world around them, and they are trying to figure out those patterns. So those messages are getting to them from a whole variety of sources, not just from families. So they are really actively processing messages and negotiating messages that they're getting from a whole variety of sources. So media is one that comes to mind. Books, cartoons, and so on and so forth, toys. Now, maybe you'll say, well, I don't let my kids watch TV. I don't let my kids watch Disney movies, so media isn't getting into my kids. But when your kids go and play with other kids, they might see that Elsa princess on the t-shirt or the backpack or the toy or on the sleeping bag at the sleepover. So, even if you try to limit your child's exposure to some of these things, those messages are really getting in from these other sources. Or let's say that you protect your child from discussions around race and racism, but they go to a school or a daycare or the doctor's office or the grocery store, and they see there who seems to have what kinds of jobs. Are there any racialized patterns in the power hierarchy? Now, your 3-year-old isn't saying, are there any racialized patterns in the power hierarchy? But they are noticing patterns. Who seems to have what kinds of jobs? Who seems to be the most popular princess? And so they are getting those messages from the world around them. And both Maggie and I in our research do a lot around place, how place itself really sends messages to kids about who belongs where, who gets what kinds of houses, or who gets what kinds of stuff. And so even if they ride or walk through neighborhoods in your area or your city, they are getting messages about patterns that they see that seem to revolve around skin color or race. And then they also, if they go to museums or other kinds of extracurricular activities, they're getting ideas about who belongs where, but also about whose ideas or artworks or discovery or contributions are really being held up as most important or worthy of recognition. And so from all of this, they're picking up on patterns. We shouldn't be surprised that young kids, we're teaching them to recognize patterns. We want them to match their shapes and their animals and, match things and learn patterns. But they're trying to figure out the rules from those patterns that they see around them. So families often think that they alone control what children learn, but these messages come from all over. Now,